Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be starting a new series. It's basically a sort of, if you like X game, then you should really try Y game. And with that said, and with that in mind, if you like Pokémon, you should try Monster Sanctuary. And what is that, you might ask? Well, Monster Sanctuary is a hybrid of a Metroidvania mixed with monster taming aspects. As you can see from the footage in the background, you can see that it's a 2D style game where you walk from left to right, right to left, jumping around, solving environmental puzzles and getting into battles. But what makes this different to other Metroidvania style games is that usually those styles of games have a sort of real-time action combat where you're hacking and slashing and actively dodging out of the way of enemy attacks and things like that. In this game, the moment that you touch an enemy, you are transported into a turn-based battle, which is generally a 3-on-3 affair. You're able to use physical attacks, magic attacks, buffs, debuffs, and all sorts of other things in between. And I think the art and the way it looks, the pixel style, is done really, really well here. It's perhaps not on the highest level of pixel art, but it really does suit this game, and it is quite charming when you're playing it. And the reason I wanted to bring some attention to this game was because I feel like it hasn't really been noticed by really anybody. I haven't seen it mentioned by a lot of the big places or even many YouTubers, honestly. Now, obviously, if I was to do a search, I would probably find that a lot of smaller people like myself have done some sort of video on it, but generally I don't think it's getting enough coverage, and I feel as though it's a really interesting game and really well made. And it's a shame because, you know, it's a digital download only. You can't get a physical copy of this, at least at the time of recording. So you end up with this kind of situation where it may have just slipped under people's radars, quite frankly. It did slip under mine for the first week that it was released. I didn't notice it was even there. Then I saw the game in one of the storefronts. I think it may have been on the Switch that I saw it. And while I'm on that, this game is available for the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. And of course, it does play on the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles as well. But just before we go into the details, I just wanted to really quickly say that I'm really close to my first subscriber goal on YouTube, and it's what you would call a modest goal. I set a goal of 25 subscribers, and I'm at about 21 right now, so I'm nearly at my first goal. So if you want to help me get there, please feel free to subscribe if you think I've deserved it, and, you know, comment on the video, leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, all that good stuff. I'd really, really appreciate it. So yep, really close to the goal, happy about that. So let's move on to the actual details of Monster Sanctuary. So let's talk about how it looks. Obviously, from the footage, you can see exactly how it looks, and the pixel art is done really well, as I said before. I think the monster designs are actually really quite good, and also I find that it doesn't feel like a rip-off of Pokémon, if you understand what I mean. You see some monster collecting games out there, and they really just look like they've taken a Pokémon and changed its color, you know, or added a spike here and there, or something like that. You could probably argue it for some of the monsters in this game, and granted, I haven't seen them all yet. But honestly, from the way they look from the get-go, I was really quite into them. And, you know, you get common things like a blob and a raven, like a bird, you know, common things, but they're done really well and they all serve a purpose. At the beginning of the game, it does give you a choice between a male and female character model, but to be honest, they're so covered up that it's kind of really hard to see what they are anyway. So, to be honest, they could be anything you would like them to be. The art for these is also really quite nice. They look appropriate, and so do all the human characters. They look great to me. You do see some pixel art that looks quite half-assed, and I feel like a lot of effort has been put into this, and it looks great. One thing that really caught my eye visually was the backgrounds. I think the backdrops look really, really nice, and the worlds have this kind of feeling of being alive and lived in. Even though it's just 2D pixel art, it just looks and feels great to be in that world. And it's cool to look around and see, you know, different nooks and crannies that perhaps you can't get to yet. Perhaps you might have to get a power up to come back later to find it. These kind of things, you know, chests that are up high that you can't quite reach yet. It's a cool exploration, and there's a lot of hidden passageways and hidden treasure as well. Overall, I don't think I could ask for anything better in the looks department. Of course, this could be a full 3D or 2.5D kind of game if They really wanted to, but I think part of the charm of these monster collecting games, it takes people back to the days of Pokemon, the originals, where it was pixel art, I mean. And I just think going with this style allows the creators to really get that nostalgia right, if that makes any sense to you. For me, being basically a veteran of the Pokemon series, it really does hit home for me, and it really does hit right. But of course, if you're someone that's not into pixel art in general, this probably won't change your mind. So how does it play? Well, as I said before, it is a Metroidvania style game with monster taming aspects. And if you don't know what a Metroidvania is, it's a cross between two types of games, Metroid and Castlevania. They both had a similar style. One was based on a Dracula type story, and the other one was a more futuristic setting. And they both shared a common aspect, which was that you could go through a certain area of the map, you could find secret areas that you just could not get to or were inaccessible to you, and then as you played through the game, you would receive these power-ups and these permanent increases to your abilities that would allow you to go back and find things that you couldn't get before. This game does that, although from what I've played so far, it's not massively Metroidvania, but it is in there. It's got a decent amount of it. However, in Metroidvania style games, again, as I said earlier, you tend to have real-time combat where you're hacking and slashing, dodging, all that stuff. In this, that's not the case at all. Like in Pokemon, when you get into a random battle, you're taken from the overworld screen into a battle screen. And that's sort of like what happens here, except you stay in a overworld screen. So the moment you touch an enemy, and you should be able to see this in the background gameplay, the moment you touch an enemy, it puts you into a fight and it lines up your characters with their characters, and then it becomes a turn-based affair. It has a cool little combo counter thing to the battles, which I really quite like. You'll notice in one of the top corners, I believe it's the top right corner, there is a combo number, and what this does is, depending how many turns you have, increases this combo number and allows you to do more damage. So what this does is incentivizes players to use their buffs first. Because if you use your buffing characters first, it will increase the damage for the, let's say the third character, might be your damage dealer, and then he'll be able to do more damage because he was third in the combo, if you see what I mean. So it really sort of teaches you to use your buffs, debuffs, all that kind of thing. Also, that leads into the rating mechanic. So at the end of every battle, you will probably again see in the footage that there is a 5-star rating, and you can get, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. The star rating depends on, doing debuffs and of course buffs on your characters and how many enemies you've defeated, how quick you did it, that kind of thing. And what this governs is basically your rewards at the end of a given battle. So if you get a 5-star rating in a battle, you have a much higher chance of getting rare drops. Rare drops in this game actually usually come in the form of eggs, which you can hatch into new monsters. And what's cool is, initially I thought, well, why would I want to hatch 3 of the same monster? Because I don't believe that there's any kind of breeding system in this game, so why would I want 2 of the same thing? Well, it turns out that, again, if you check the footage, every single monster in the game has this huge, and I mean huge, skill tree system where you can basically spec them into different things. So if you look at the fire lion that I have that I've named Apollo, he has the ability to go down a sort of magic fire path, or he can go down a physical fire path. He can also do earth type moves, and he can do many different things with many different skills, and these can be mixed and matched as well. You don't even need to just select one path. You can actually take from every path, which is really clever. There's just way you can build characters to do crits, you can build them to be healers and buffers and things like that. It's just really, really clever. And the way that this works is that you could have 2 monsters that are, stats wise identical, but then once you start changing their skills and what they have and don't have, they become very different uses. And I think that's really, really clever. And on top of that, every single monster has a slot for a weapon and 3 accessories, further changing their stats. So if you have 2 of the same monster and you want to build one as a crit based one and then one as a magic damage based one, you can give them different statistics via the equipment, which is again really, really clever. And you can augment it, which is just such a deep RPG thing that I really think, Pokemon has its IV training, but it's very, very obscure. This is very, very simple, and I like that. Nothing has to be complicated. Sometimes complexity is great, okay? I really like the Division 2, for example, and there's quite a lot of complexity in the way the the systems in that game work. However, sometimes it can just be too much, you know? But with Monster Sanctuary, I found everything to be really accessible and really quite intuitive. It's really just a pick up and play type experience. Of course, you do need to read through the skills, maybe sort out your path before you go down it. There is ways to respec them, so I don't know how readily available that is during the entire game, but I have seen a few ways to respec. There's even a tiny bit further customization in the fact that you can feed a meal to each monster, and the monster will gain benefits from the last 3 meals they ate. And as far as I'm aware, these meals don't disappear, so you can feed them things like walnuts and strawberries and things like that, and they all have different benefits. It might only be small, but it's things like, you know, +8 to defense or +5% crit rate or something like that, which is quite a cool thing because, again, it further deepens the customization. And if you're going for a crit-based build, you can give them all the crit stuff there, all the crit stuff in their skill tree, all the crit stuff in their equipment, and that's just for one, you know, type. As I said, you could get the same monster and build it completely differently, which is so interesting and such like a thing that I've never really seen in a monster taming game, at least not to this degree, so they have to be applauded for that, I think. But overall for me, the gameplay is absolutely fantastic. It's really fun. It's really cool collecting this stuff. The platforming feels fine. It's just great all round. So let's talk about how it sounds. It's a basic sound. If you're familiar with the older Pokemon games, you'll probably know what to expect. It sounds perfectly adequate for what it's trying to do, and I have absolutely no problems with it. The background music is nice, it fits the theme, and again, good all round. So other than that, there are a few smaller little, you know, minor details, but they're not things that I feel are really important towards the game. There's things like your monsters can do things out of battle. For example, the eagle can let you sort of glide, and the fire lion that you can see in the footage allows you to break rocks so that you can get through certain areas or find secret chests, you know, things like that. They all have their own little abilities, which is quite cool. There is sort of a base of operations that you can go to that has shops and a sort of battle tower section, which is quite cool. And the story's been pretty cool as well so far. It's been quite interesting to see the world coming together and learning about where these monster taming characters come from and why they exist in the first place. It's pretty cool. I won't spoil it here, but I think it's definitely worth, you know, giving some attention to. So what do I think overall about Monster Sanctuary? You know, just like the title of this video suggests, if you like Pokemon, you really should play this, at least just to see if you like it. Currently it is only a downloadable exclusive, you know, it's about £15-16 in the UK, so I would guess something like $18 to $20 in the USA. I think at that price, you know, you just can't really go wrong. And it plays well on the PS5, which is what I'm playing it on myself. But the cool thing is that you can actually have this on a handheld like the Switch as well. I think that's a bonus for the Switch, actually, the fact that it's a handheld console that can have something like this on. Saving the game is really quick and easy, so you can take your Switch out, have a quick 10 minutes on it, save it, put it away, and then, you know, you're good to go. But again, overall, for the quality, for the gameplay, for the care and attention that went into making this, I think it's really worth a look, and I really would like to see the developers of this get more attention on themselves, you know, because they've done a really good job here. And I personally am a little bit burnt out on Pokemon over the years. I will be getting the newer ones, you know, the Diamond and Pearl remakes and the Arceus one as well. Oh, and Pokemon Snap, but that's not really the same sort of thing. But I personally didn't really enjoy Sword very much. I found it to be really lackluster, unfortunately. But when I saw Monster Sanctuary and booted it up for the first time, it just kind of felt like a bit of a breath of fresh air, shall we say. So if this sounds interesting to you at all, please do give it a look. Or if you already own it, let me know what you think about it. I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments. And of course, remember, if you've enjoyed the video, please leave me a thumbs up. It really helps get my videos seen by other people. And if you think I've earned it, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I'm only a few subscribers away from my first goal, and I would really appreciate it. But with all that said, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.